Wondery Plus subscribers can listen to Morbid early and ad-free. Join Wondery Plus in the Wondery app or on Apple Podcasts.
You're listening to a Morbid Network podcast.
Redacted, Declassified Mysteries is a new podcast hosted by me, Luke LaManna. Each week, I dive into the hidden truths behind the world's most powerful institutions, from covert government experiments to bizarre assassination attempts. Follow Redacted on the Wondery app or wherever you get your podcasts.
Hey, weirdos. I'm Elena.
I am Ash.
And this right here is Morbid.
This is Morbid pre-hurricane.
Pre-hurricane Morbid.
Guys, we're about to get a gnarly hurricane.
We never get hurricanes up here.
It's been 30-something years since we got one.
It's been like 30 years, pretty much.
Yeah, so who knows what's about to happen.
New England doesn't know what to do here. We know what to do with lots of snow. We don't know what to do with anything else.
And I feel like everybody just took the same, like, precautions that they do with snow. It's like the milk, the eggs, the bread, the milk, the eggs, the bread.
That's all we know what to do. We're like, charge up all your stuff and get some eggs and milk and bread.
Get a portable charger.
Just, there we go.
Elena said to me the other day, I was like, thanks, Mom. She's like, make sure you're stocked up.
I was like, get your groceries. Make sure you get them.
At Instacart. Thank you.
That's right.
Yay.
But yeah, we don't know what to do. So it's going to be weird. We're going to get our 2 episodes out. It's been a little bit of a weird week, so we're going to get our 2 episodes.
It's just like always a weird week because really we are who we are. Like we're weird, you're weird. You get it. You get it.
They're always going to come out. That's all we know.
They're coming out.
We don't know when. I'm sorry. But we are definitely getting them out because we're going to beat the hopefully we're not going to lose power, but I have a feeling we will.
No. Don't put it out into the universe.
I mean, it's a hurricane, so I don't know.
Losing power.
So I don't think anybody really likes it.
Some people might think it's fun and spooky. I just think I think it's fun and spooky, but I think it's far too quiet.
Yeah, I don't like it at all. It stresses me out.
It's like you can hear the silence.
With kids, it's not fun to lose power.
Because you're like, I don't know what you did pre-iPad. Get out of my face. No, not actually.
Yeah, it's just a lot, but... So don't worry, your episodes will be out, but let's see what happens.
Let's go. Let's get this one
all
going.
Of us, let's just see what happens. I'm stressed.
All right. Well, this one was actually super duper highly requested like a few weeks ago. For some reason, like 42 people were like, you need to do this case.
Is there like any date that corresponds with that or anything?
No.
Just happen to happen. No. I love when that happens.
Well, I think everybody knows I love an old Hollywood case.
That's true, you do.
This is not necessarily old Hollywood, but this woman has like a Hollywood vibe. She's like a socialite, so I think people are like, Ash, you love that, do it.
This is a perfect kind of thing for you.
It is. We're going to trigger warning this a little bit because this unfortunately does involve possible incest and abuse. So if you are going to be uncomfortable listening to that, which probably all of you are, but if you don't want to listen to that, then I will see you for Elena's episode, I guess.
I am glad I brought my coffee.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Because wow.
So we're going to be talking today about Barbara. I think you say it Baekeland. I looked it up and somebody said Baekeland. Somebody said Baekeland. I think it's Baekeland.
I'm going to go with Baekeland.
Barbara Baekeland.
That sounds right.
It does to me. It feels right. It just feels right coming out of my mouth.
It does.
Before Barbara became a Baekeland, she was born Barbara Daly on September 28th, 1922 to parents Nene and Frank Daly.
The Roaring 20s.
The Roaring 20s. She came in with a bang. She grew up in Cambridge, Massachusetts.
Hey!
Which every source I saw was like, she grew up in Boston. And I was like, Cambridge is in Boston.
Cambridge is in Boston.
Cambridge is Cambridge.
But hello, Barbara.
Hi, Barbara.
Happy to have you. Am I?
No.
I did not look into this case before I said any of this, so
yeah,
we'll see.
We'll see.
We'll see if I evolve.
You'll find out along the way.
I will.
Well, Barbara's mother, Nene, unfortunately had her fair share of struggles when it came to mental health. She actually had a nervous breakdown just a couple years before giving birth to Barbara.
Oh boy.
So she was going through it. And Barbara's father also seemed to struggle with his mental health, or I don't know if it was that or if his wife's struggles kind of just took a toll on him.
Okay.
Probably probably a mixture of both, I'm assuming. And when Barbara was 10 years old, Frank ended up killing himself.
Oh.
He went out into the closed garage and he turned on the family car. So ultimately he died from the fume inhalation. And people think the reason that he did it that way was so that it could still look like an accident.
Oh, wow.
So then he was like taking care of Barbara and Nene and they could get an insurance payout.
Oh, that's really sad.
It is really sad. But luckily they were left with enough money to kind of make ends meet. And they actually, Nene decided to use the money to move to New York City for a while. And they actually lived in the Delmonico Hotel.
Oh, wow.
Which is just like fancy.
That is fancy.
Yeah, it must have been a good insurance payout.
There you go.
Now, growing up, Barbara was considered one of New York's 10 most beautiful girls, which really helped her work her way to a modeling career.
That'll do it.
I also want to know, like, who decides?
I was going to say, did somebody just come to the door and be like, we've chosen you?
Hey, you're beautiful.
Yeah, you're real pretty.
Only 9 others like you.
Wow.
It's like, how does that happen? Is it a contest?
I got it. Is it like a pageant of some sort?
I didn't see anything about a pageant. They were just like, she's one of the 10 most beautiful girls.
They literally just picked her off the street.
It's like, I don't know.
Yeah.
It just happens, you know?
Hey, we saw you coming out of the grocery store. You're real pretty. I'd say you're prettier than 90% of women in this place. So.
Hey. Well, it makes sense for Barbara because she was born on the Libra Virgo cusp, which is known as the cusp of beauty.
Oh, look at that.
I didn't know that there was like I knew there were cusps obviously in astrology, but I didn't know they were like cusp of beauty.
Yeah, I had no idea that was a thing.
So then I fell into a hole reading all about different cusps and what they mean. I was born on the cusp of energy, which makes a lot of sense. And I believe yours was like prosperity. So like hats off to you.
Hey, look at that.
But that's not what this is about. So anyways,
it's not about our cusps.
It's not about our cusp. It's about Barbara's cusp of beauty. And
that's weird, though. That makes sense.
Yeah, it makes sense. Like, they line up.
She's beauty.
And it's funny because she went on to model for Vogue and Harper's Bazaar.
Wow, get it.
So that cusp of beauty just really nailing it for her. And then because she was modeling and one of the most prettiest girls there, she started getting invites to, like, super exclusive parties where she'd hang out with, like, New York's top socialites at the time.
Oh, she's just fancy.
She was super fancy. Like, she just made her way on up there. Now, while she was at one of those parties... She's like
Tinsley Mortimer from The Real
Shut
Housewives
the fuck up.
New
It's
York.
so funny because a Mortimer actually takes place in this.
Oh, really?
A Mortimer takes place.
It takes place. Yeah. Mortimer makes an appearance.
That's what I meant to say. Thank you.
They take place in here.
They take place here. Yeah. I've had 1 glass of coffee and I'm usually on like 3 by this point in the day.
And it was a mug, not even a glass. So she's really struggling.
I'm really just not okay. It was your coffee. I'm gonna blame you. But yeah, she was hanging with those socialites. She was Tinsleying it up. And while she was at one of those parties, she was introduced to Dana Andrews. I don't know if you've heard of him.
No.
I hadn't either, but apparently in the 40s, he was a pretty big time deal.
Oh, okay.
He was an actor. He had starring roles in Laura, The Best Days of Our Lives, and State Fair.
Oh, okay.
I see you over there looking it up. You're not going to recognize a single one of his movies because
I just wanted to see him.
Handsome dude.
Okay.
Handsome guy.
I thought you said he had some dude.
He had some dude.
He did. He had some dude in him.
Handsome dude.
Yeah.
Handsome
okay.
guy.
Yeah. Hey.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Look her up. She was beautiful. I'm not going to deny that.
There's a photo of him like holding a cigarette, like just looking at the camera, like remember in the 40s when they were like, these won't kill you. Yeah. They just look cool.
These will make yours appeal at 1,000.
Exactly.
Well, Dana thought that Barbara's star potential was at 1,000, and he invited her out to Hollywood with him, thinking that she could do a screen test, and he thought she had, like I said, star potential. She was going to make it big.
Because here she is holding a cigarette just like him.
That's
what makes star potential. That's all you needed in the 40s was a cigarette and like curled hair.
I was literally going to say, and good hair.
Good coif. That's all you needed.
Yeah, good roller set and a cig.
Yeah.
You're on to Hollywood you go, biatch.
Here you go. You're going to be a star.
Let's get it. Yeah, but anyways, the screen test did not work out for our girl Barbs, unfortunately. But, she was out in California doing the damn thing, and she met this girl called Cornelia Baekeland, who was also known as Dickie Baekeland, which I thought is just, like, adorable. It's a cute nickname.
Because Cornelia is such a pretty name.
Yeah, it is. But she was the sister of this guy called Brooks Baekeland, and Cornelia thought Barbara would really hit it off with her brother, so she was like, let me introduce you guys.
She was like, there's so much alliteration here. It needs to happen.
Brooks and Babs, let's get it. Brooks, Babs, Baekeland. Yes. You should have a baby. But Brooks was actually training to be a pilot with the Royal Canadian Air Force.
Oh, okay.
Just that.
Yeah, very casual.
Just living. And when they met, sparks flew. It was a Taylor Swift song.
Oh, I love it.
Barbara was beautiful. Brooks was handsome. and like ridiculously wealthy. And that's really all you need to build a good relationship, obviously.
There you go. That's it.
Looks and money.
Yep.
You know, and Brooks came from family money. His grandfather was Leo Baekeland, who essentially just invented plastic.
Oh, that little thing.
Like, plastic was already a thing, but it wasn't great.
Have you heard of it? Plastic?
I don't know.
You guys use it?
Sometimes.
Yeah.
I've seen it in the store.
Google it. You'll know.
You might know.
You might be like, oh, I've used that once in a while.
Or, you know, you might be a plastic sitting at the Mean Girls table.
I mean, Google it on the thing that is made out of plastic.
Whoa, weird.
Meta.
I was literally just going to say that's so meta. Stop saying my words.
Sorry.
But yeah, so he invented Bakelite plastic, which is also known as, are you ready? Polyoxybenzyl methylenglycolin hydride.
Killed it.
I don't think I did. I lost in the middle there. But basically, it was the first plastic made from synthetic materials, and it was called the material of 1,000 uses.
Ooh.
It was just like the world's first sustainable plastic.
Yeah.
Hotshot Australian attorney Nicola Gaba was born into legal royalty. Her specialty? Representing some of the city's most infamous gangland criminals. However, while Nicola held the underworld's darkest secrets, the most dangerous secret was her own.
She's going to all the major groups within Melbourne's underworld, and she's informing on them all.
I'm Marcia Clark, host of the new podcast, Informants Lawyer X. In my long career in criminal justice as a prosecutor and defense attorney, I've seen some crazy cases, and this one belongs right at the top of the list.
She was addicted to the game she had created. She just didn't know how to stop.
Now, through dramatic interviews and access, I'll reveal the truth behind one of the world's most shocking legal scandals. Listen to Informants Lawyer X exclusively on Wondery Plus. Join Wondery Plus in the Wondery app, Apple Podcasts, or Spotify, and listen to more Exhibit C true crime shows early and ad-free right now.
In a quiet suburb, a community is shattered by the death of a beloved wife and mother. But this tragic loss of life quickly turns into something even darker. Her husband had tried to hire a hitman on the dark web to kill her. And she wasn't the only target. Because buried in the depths of the internet is the kill list, a cache of chilling documents containing names, photos, addresses, and specific instructions for people's murders. This podcast is the true story of how I ended up in a race against time to warn those whose lives were in danger. And it turns out, convincing a total stranger someone wants them dead is not easy. Follow Kill List on the Wondery app or wherever you get your podcasts. You can listen to Kill List and more Exhibit C true crime shows like Morbid early and ad-free right now by joining Wondery Plus. Check out Exhibit C in the Wondery app for all your true crime listening.
But because of his grandfather's invention, Brooks had what he called Q money.
Don't we all want that?
Yes.
That's the American dream.
I'm just over here counting Q money.
Can you imagine?
No.
That's the American dream.
Yeah, it is.
Q money.
He was like, I have money, so I don't need to like listen to what anybody tells me what to do. I don't need to please anybody.
Yeah.
This is my money and I can save you with it.
Q money.
I love it. I'm here for it.
I'm in here for it.
But anyways, less on plastic and more on relationships. So even though they were both in love with each other, everything kind of started off with a lie. Because Brooks later claimed that the reason he married Barbara so quickly was because she told him that she was pregnant. Oh. Spoiler alert, she was not. So he and Barbara got married in California, but then they went back to New York City to celebrate, or to settle. To
celebrate.
Maybe not celebrate, because, lies.
Because, lies.
Because she lied.
Because truth
like
and
a
consequences.
Liar.
That's why.
Because lies and not responsibilities. But pretty early on, they started having problems, probably because everything was based on a lie. They were constantly cheating on one another. Barbara was struggling mentally and spending a ton of money on psychiatrists and therapy appointments, but she was never really getting to the bottom of what was truly going on because it was only like the mid-40s at that point.
Oh, that's sad.
We hadn't really come a long way with mental health and everything like that. And the other thing that wasn't helping was that because of Brooks's status, they were just constantly under public scrutiny. Like everyone had an opinion about them. Everyone knew what was going on in their life. They're like top of the elite New York social chain. So
and that's hard. That must be so hard when you're struggling.
Yeah, especially like with your mental health. I also just can't imagine, even if you weren't struggling with your mental health, I feel like it would cause you to.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
Because you're just like under the like eyeball of everybody.
Oh, yeah. Whenever like strangers have opinions about who you are as a person, it'll get to your mental health. Yeah,
for sure.
It definitely I think anybody can agree that has ever had strangers have an opinion about you.
Yeah, because it's weird when strangers have an opinion about you.
Yeah.
Because like, they don't know you.
No.
Yeah. But they had a ton of rich and famous friends. And it was more like just keeping up with like the Chanels and Mortimers of society than keeping up with the Joneses. There was actually one night where they were out to dinner with some friends, and this is really this like made me really, really mad, because if this happened to me, I would have like thrown a plate across the table.
Ooh.
Brooks was at the table with all their friends, and obviously Barbara was there, and he just was like, I would sleep with the next girl who walked in the room, no matter what she looked like, for $1 million. Why offer up that information, sir?
What, sir?
Maybe you should be single then, sir.
I'm like really angry.
Like, I would literally throw a plate at him. I'm not like one for violence, but you know.
No, but sometimes
there's a time and a place.
You know what? You're getting a plate thrown at you.
Like, what?
I'd at the very least throw my pork chop at him.
Yeah, I don't even like pork chops, so I'd throw them both at him.
Yeah. Like, that's really upsetting.
Why would you just randomly say that? Like, what?
I feel like it's like one of those statements that like the whole table goes silent and they're like,
yikes.
Was that a joke?
You're very bad at joking.
What?
Hey, isn't that your wife?
Want to walk that one back? I don't know.
How do you come back from that one?
Ew, Brooks.
But to get back at him, Barbara decided that she was gonna just hop in the next car that came by. So when they
that's
left,
really ratcheting it up a notch.
It really is, you know, just like 1 for 1.
Okay.
She hopped in a car with 4 guys inside, and it just like sped off. They were like,
so instead of like tit for tat, it's like tit for rat-a-tat-tat-tat-tat.
Like, I mean, it's the 40s, rat-a-tat-tat, bitch. And she didn't come home until like much later that night.
Oh my God.
It's also like, guys, maybe you shouldn't be together.
Yeah, I feel like that's your sign.
Maybe you should just be single if you want to live that New York crazy life.
Wow.
Now, there were other occasions where they would violently fight about things such as what restaurant to go to.
I mean, yeah.
I was reading one article. It's not okay. There was one article where he literally had her in like a headlock and she was biting him.
Oh my God.
Because they couldn't decide what restaurant they wanted to go to. Like, she wanted to go to one and he didn't want to go there. And that's what it escalated to.
That's horrific.
It's really sad. And I feel like that goes to show you like the struggles that she was having. Because it's like, how does it get from that, like from like such a small argument to like that heightened?
Oh yeah, there's clearly stuff under the surface here and things that people don't know.
Honestly, it shows you what an asshole he is. It's like, can you like help her out instead of putting her in a headlock?
Jeez.
Yeah.
This whole thing is like, whoa.
And I felt like reading throughout this whole thing, it was like Brooks was constantly being embarrassed by Barbara, but it's like he wasn't doing anything to help her.
Yeah.
Now, they had some of the biggest stars around that time coming to their parties too. So like these were people that you didn't want to be losing your in front of.
Yeah, of course.
Greta Garbo, Tennessee Williams, Sam Green.
No big deal.
Like big ass stars.
Yeah, people you might know.
Yeah, so everything was just like really diabolical in front of all these like socialites, and there's like drugs happening at these parties. They're drinking tons of alcohol. It's just like not the situation you need to be in when you're struggling.
No. It's not just them like, you know, doing the Charleston or something.
No,
like,
I mean maybe at the same time,
but that's not it.
That ain't it.
That ain't it. There's more.
Yeah, but wait, there's more.
There's definitely more.
And here's some more for you. Because things weren't really going any better in 1946 when Barbara found out she was pregnant for reals this time.
Just waiting for that.
And even after she gave birth to their son Anthony, they were still cheating on each other and still carrying out like long-term affairs.
Cool.
Yeah. So for the next 10 years, Barbara and Brooks would travel all around the world with their little Tony, boasting about what an amazing child he was. He was a prodigy, they said. He was good at painting and writing. He was God's gift to the world. And so he learned from a young age that he could literally do nothing wrong and that there were no consequences in life.
That's always good.
Yeah, you know, you really want to set that up for your kid young.
Yeah, that usually ends well.
Yeah, right? Barbara and Brooks would show Tony off in front of their friends at parties, but when it came down to actually being there for their son emotionally and actually taking care of him, that was like the nanny's job.
Yeah, of course.
Or like the boarding school's job.
That's so sad.
I read this article. It was written by a guy called David Leaf, and he said, quote, "As the family traveled from one chic destination to another in an endless round of idle summers, she and Brooks treated their son like a favorite toy to be picked up and put down at whim."
Oh, that's really sad.
So sad.
Oh, that like hurts my heart.
Yeah, because that's a baby.
To just like treat your child like, let me show you off real quick. Now get away from me.
And that's
like,
what it is. Like, and especially like at that time period and like who they were hanging out with, it was like kids were just like shiny things to show off and not like actual human beings
that you have to actually like nurture,
right,
and be there for
and love and like teach wrong from right. And
like kids are not convenient.
No,
like, and that's what I think everybody had to learn for a long time. I don't think
anyone has kids to like make their life easier.
No, that definitely doesn't happen. And like, it's like it always makes me angry when people are like, "Wow, this is like really inconvenient for me," and it's like, yeah, no, that's what right. Like, it's another human that you literally have to bring from like this little blob into an actual human,
and you're solely responsible for it.
And you are literally responsible for it. Of course, it's not going to like fit into your life perfectly.
Of course, it's not going to be an easy job.
You got to fit your life around it.
Like taking care of my cats is a difficult job sometimes, and I'm like, whew. But like, I chose to have them.
Exactly.
You gotta take care of them.
Yeah.
I love them so much.
They deserve it.
They do. But friends of the family noticed odd behavior that didn't seem to be on Barbara and Brooks's radar coming from Tony. They saw him picking the legs off of crabs when they were at the beach.
Oh.
They noticed that he developed a stutter, and they wondered if it was like to earn more attention from his parents.
Oh, this hurts my heart.
It's really sad. One friend even remembered that Brooks boasted about Tony pulling a fly's wings off like he was doing a science experiment and not just like treating an animal cruelly. I know it's like a fly, but
it's still like, especially when you put it along with ripping the legs off of crabs and stuff.
Right.
It's like,
exactly. But he didn't seem concerned about like the cruelty aspect of that. He seemed more concerned like, oh,
what a brilliant mind.
That's exactly what it was. Like, oh, my son doing experiments.
Yeah, and it's like, no.
It's like, not exactly. So now we're going to flash forward to 1967. The family's living in Switzerland. Tony's 21 by this time, and his parents find out that he is gay.
Okay.
They are less than pleased.
Oh, that hurts my heart.
It's really up. Tony had been experimenting with his a long time. While he was at a boys' boarding school, that's when he did a lot of experimenting. And he actually told a psychologist that it started when he was 8 years old, and that something had happened to him at school. And that's when he started like exploring his.
Oh wow.
It's like at 8 years old,
and something happened.
Yeah, he said because of an experience he had at boarding school at 8 years old. So it's like, you wonder what that means.
Yeah,
you kind of have to read into that a little bit.
Yeah, it sounds ominous.
It does. Now, Brooke seemed to have known for a while, but Barbara literally could not handle the news. She almost fell apart. Now, at the time, Tony was dating this guy from Australia who he had met in Morocco. Like, what a life. Just, I met this guy in Morocco.
What a life.
Just living.
Oh, I was just in Morocco.
Yeah, I just met my mans in Morocco. Now, this man's was Jake Cooper. Jake was a really seedy dude, really shy. He was said to have been bringing Tony down a really bad path. He introduced him to a ton of drugs. They, did LSD regularly together, which when you're doing that regularly, it's, not awesome. And
not very casual.
Not great for your psyche.
No.
They also were doing belladonna together.
Oh, okay, Charlie Manson.
Yeah. That's literally what I thought of, too.
First thing I thought of.
So one of Barbara's friends called her and was like, yeah, Tony's involved with this guy, and, he's bringing him down a really bad path, and I also think they're together. So Barbara was devastated that her son was gay, which is so up.
That's so wild.
So fucked.
That would even be on your...
And I know it was a different time socially and all that stuff, but it was never acceptable.
Yeah,
never acceptable. And she was so upset that she decided they needed to leave immediately and move back to New York City. And she wanted to work on curing him of his gayness.
Oh.
Curing him of his gayness.
Oh.
Like it's a disease.
I hate this.
It's terrible. Now, some people said that this is when Barbara and Tony's relationship really started to become incestuous.
Oh.
So I read this article that while they were crossing the border to get back into the United States, Tony didn't have the right passport, so they had to spend a night in jail. Mm-hmm. And she said something to him along the lines of oh, good, you're cuffed up with mommy, just where you should be.
Oh.
Which, maybe wouldn't be super duper creepy if everything else hadn't happened.
I was gonna say.
Still, it's a weird thing to say.
It's definitely a weird thing to say.
Saying mummy when he's 21.
I was gonna say he's 21 and being cuffed up with mummy.
Yeah, and he referred to her as mummy for forevs.
Oh man,
yeah, it's a lot. So Barbara allegedly, and this is really up. So if you, again, I gave you a warning in the beginning, but here's another one. So give yourself a sec. Barbara allegedly told Brooks that she could cure Tony's gayness, again, huge yikes, if she just took him to bed with her.
Oh, I don't want to be anywhere near this.
It's
I'm out.
That's your son.
That's not going to cure anybody of anything.
That's your son. That's only going to make more problems for both of you.
Oh, I'm upset.
Yeah. So Brooks was horrified, and he told the story to his brother-in-law, who then told his wife, and then before you knew it, the story was just being passed around the elite circle, and everybody knew that Barbara had said this.
Oh my God. I love that this started from her own husband, just like telling everybody.
At that point, they were having he was involved in like a crazy affair, and he had already been having that affair for a wicked long time, and I think he was so out of it, but she would constantly say she was going to kill herself if he left her.
Oh.
So I think he was feeling stuck. Like he didn't want to be responsible for that.
This is just a very chaotic, messy situation.
Exactly. So everybody's like talking about this, but that was the last thing that Barbara confided in Brooks as a married couple, because he was like, I can't stick around for this, and you better not do that, because that's ridiculously up.
I can't. That's having your the mother of or father of your child say something like that to you.
Right.
What do you even do?
And just come out and say it.
I'm nowhere involved in this, and I'm speechless. I'm I don't even know what to say.
Just to say it, it's not a big deal.
I think this would fix it.
If I just slept with our son.
Yeah, I think
that we made together, that I'm the mother of.
That will solve all the problems. Right?
And I know she was struggling mentally, but I'm just how does your brain go there?
I know, that's the thing. It's just I know there's mental illness here, so it's
right.
Obviously, we're not thinking logically or at the realness of this situation, but it's hearing that is shocking.
Jarring.
Very shocking.
Mm-hmm. Now, just to be clear, Brooks is not the hero of this story.
No.
He left Barbara and Tony for a girl named Sylvie Skira, who was actually one of Tony's friends to begin with. They had met in Europe. Sylvie and Brooks had been having an affair for a long time, and it was actually Barbara who introduced them to each other.
What?
Because she thought that Sylvie was Tony's girlfriend.
Oh, man.
Now, Sylvie herself denies that she and Tony were ever together. She was I knew that he was gay. He knew he was gay. Our relationship was strictly platonic.
Yeah.
But Tony seemed to remember it differently, too, later. And he had later, said that his father stole his girlfriend.
Really?
Yes.
Wow. This is messy as hell.
This is the messiest.
The messiest.
It's a real example of there always being three sides to a story: yours, mine, and the truth. But here we have Sylvie's, Brooks's, Tony's, Barbara's, yours, mine, and the truth.
Yeah,
so
you
we've
just
got
keep
7.
hearing it. It's what?
It's excuse me?
I'm shook. I keep looking at pictures of all these people you keep mentioning.
I know,
I'm
right?
trying to get the feel for
They're
it.
all very beautiful.
They are. I mean, this is very old Hollywood looking.
Oh, absolutely. It's the oldest Hollywood looking.
Yeah.
Now, Brooks and the inner circle were not the only ones to hear about the alleged incestuous relationship between Barbara and Tony. After Brooks left her, Barbara started taking a creative writing class, and she was allegedly writing a novel about a mother and son and their incestuous relationship with each other.
Okay.
And then Sylvie later alleged that the police found tapes in Barbara's house, cassette tapes, where she was recording, talking about what she was going to be writing. And she was talking about incestuous things.
Oh.
Now, that's never been confirmed if those cassette tapes actually exist. But
that's
Sylvie said that the police gave them to Brooks and said, destroy these because they're going to ruin your family name. Wow. Because remember, this is a huge family name. Leo invented the first sustainable plastic.
Of course.
So Barbara's an heiress,
And just this focus on incest is can we move away from this, please?
Right. It's very Flowers in the Attic.
It is. It keeps bringing me there.
Yeah.
I keep getting brought there.
It's a weird place to go, man.
Yeah.
I was excited to get away from it.
Yeah.
As soon as this episode is over, as interesting as it is, I'm okay, we're going to move on to somewhere.
Wow, that was a place to hang out for a while.
I think we're going to move on to somewhere haunted after this for me personally. But we gotta finish this.
Woof.
So one of the friends that Barbara made in her creative writing class remembered that at first she thought that she was writing a fiction novel about the incest, because you would think that.
Yeah, Flowers in the Attic.
Correct. But then she went to Barbara and Tony's shared apartment one day because Tony just constantly lived with Barbara, for the rest of ever.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. And there was pictures that Barbara had taken of Tony and portraits, and they were just everywhere. And this woman was just like disturbed by the picture. She said that they weren't the kind of pictures a typical mother would take of her son.
Okay, because I was going to say, I was like, all right, it's her son. Like, she loves her son.
Now, there is one picture, and it's not like sexually explicit or anything, but it's of it's of Tony when he's younger in like a bathtub.
I just saw that.
It's a weird picture.
It's not like there's no like blatant nudity or anything like that.
No.
But it is definitely a picture that you'd be like,
what?
Why? When was that taken? Like, what was the context in which that was taken?
And it's like posed. Like, it looks posed.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
It looks like a photo shoot.
It literally does.
Like, it looks like a photo shoot that like a person, like a grown person would take now.
Of another grown
for
person.
like, you know,
a magazine.
Some magazine, you know, like
Playboy, to be honest. Like,
yeah, no, well, not even. It's because it's not.
It's like, I feel like it's like suggestive though.
But it's got like a high fashion look to it. It does. Really does. It has like a Vogue look to it. Like, I could see like, you know, I'm trying to say, I'm so bad at actresses. I'm like Cara
Delevingne.
Yeah, I could see, or like Jennifer Lawrence. I could see her like in this kind of photo shoot.
And I think you're right. Actually, I think it's only suggestive knowing what I know now.
Yeah, because I was gonna say it doesn't shout like a Playboy.
Yeah, no, that was the wrong thing to me.
Say. It shouts like fashion. What's happening here?
Yeah.
Like, that's all.
But if you didn't know, you'd be like, oh, like fashion.
And it's definitely not a photo I would like display of my child.
No, it's just a little bit weird.
Yeah.
But over the years, a lot of Barbara and Tony's visitors felt the same as this woman. They were like, yeah, these pictures were weird. Because no matter where they were, because they had various apartments in New York, London, and other parts of Europe, because Barbara got a monthly allowance from Brooks. Since he had left.
Yeah.
But no matter where they were, there were like huge portraits and photos of Tony all over the apartments that Barbara put up.
Yeah.
And she was just like constantly talking about Tony all the time. Like, she was very, very focused.
Yeah.
Which, again, if you're looking at it from the other side, it's like, that's your only child and your husband left you and now you're kind of both clinging on to each other. But
yeah, you can definitely look at it
both ways.
A few sides here.
Yeah, but the portraits were often described as creepy.
Yeah.
Now, one of Barbara's own friends, Alan Harrington, said that she called him on the phone to tell him that she had slept with Tony to cure him of being gay. Another man who made friends with Barbara on a cruise said she also told him the same thing and said she was, quote, very honest about it. She said she had done it to break him of his tendencies. She talked about it as though it were a therapeutic act.
I'm horrified.
Yeah.
Especially, like, for all of this. But, like, a dude on a cruise you meet?
Like, what?
I'm telling him about this?
What?
Like, whoa.
And then there were people that was like, yeah, like she just, and again, these are all like alleged accounts, but there were people that were like, yeah, she just like said it at dinner one night.
Which makes you think like there's something so wrong here that she doesn't
at this think it's wrong.
Something that would horrify people.
Right. Because that's the thing. It's like, normally, like, I would think when this happens, people try to hide this when
I would think you would feel shame. And also it's like there's so many layers to it because it's like you don't find anything wrong with like trying to cure someone, of which I know at the time probably wouldn't shock everybody as much.
Right.
But then you add that layer of like, it's my son.
Yeah.
Like you add incest into it. It's like, no, you should feel some shame here. Right. Like, what are you doing just saying this in front of people? Which makes me very much question what state she was in.
Well, that's the thing. I think she was...
Because this just seems...
She wasn't in a good state. She was constantly, even after Brooks left, she was like threatening to kill herself. She attempted to multiple times.
A lot happened.
And then at the same time, I read articles where like we're saying like you would... So she's telling people she's having an incestuous affair and you're like, wouldn't that shock people? But then it's like she at one point slit her wrists and showed people and was like, oh, guess what? Where I was this morning, like at the hospital. So it's like... I think she was like disassociated somehow.
Yeah, there was just like no filter happening.
And again, this was so long ago that she's not going to the right people. There wasn't medical attention available to her. Like
this wasn't understood.
It wasn't understood. Exactly. Yeah. So it's a lot. It's a lot, dude. Now, once Brooks left, Barbara's mental health only declined more and more. And Tony now was the one taking the brunt of it. Because like I said, they would argue over like what restaurants to go to and end in like a physical assault.
So like what's
now
happening
Tony's
here?
Taking the brunt of it. Barbara was super hard on him, especially because she was so upset about it. And eventually Tony began to struggle with his own mental health. Now, not to mention, back when he was with Jake Cooper, he had eaten like an entire thing of belladonna, which is known to cause hallucinations and ongoing mental problems.
I was gonna say, because it's not like it just like is like whoop.
It doesn't just go away.
It's gonna run its course for a long time.
Yeah, exactly. Like belladonna. It doesn't even sound like a real thing.
That's wild.
It's insane. He was prone to serious and like really scary bouts of anger, and obviously if this alleged incest is happening to him, that's also part of it.
For sure.
During some of these, and it was always Barbara that was like taking the brunt of his anger because they were so codependent. It was like,
this is just such a really toxic relationship.
Volatile relationship.
On both sides.
Right. But he would threaten Barbara with knives. He would choke her. There were times where people were like, yeah, I literally saw him try to push her into oncoming traffic.
My God.
And things escalated really, really seriously one night when Barbara was attacked while she was leaving a dinner party that she'd attended in London. Someone came up behind her and tried to grab her, but she was able to make a break for it. Whoever this person was then grabbed her by the hair and allegedly ripped a clump of hair out.
Whoa.
And then threw her down on the ground and then tried to drag her into oncoming traffic. Yes. She was able to get away again, but the man ran into the house and then came back with a knife and started heading her way. Like he ran into the house that she was at a dinner party at. It was her friend's house. So obviously,
this is just some random dude?
I don't know. It was this guy. Obviously he knows the layout of this house. So he goes and gets a knife and comes back and he's like screaming that any woman who's near her is gonna get it.
What?
If they like intervene. Yeah. So then he starts going Barbara's way. But just in the nick of time, a couple people who lived in the house that like weren't there at the time intervened, and Barbara's friend Sue came onto the scene, and somehow whoever this was got scared away, ran back into the house out the back door and into the alleyways and got away. And Barbara said that was Tony.
What?
That was Tony.
That is like Jack the Ripper style.
Legit, like just like coming out of the
shadows.
The shadows.
And disappearing into the alleys of London. Like what?
Right? Right. The whole thing is just bananas.
This is like really chaotic.
It's truly very chaotic. So Barbara knew it was Tony. And when the police arrived, she was like, that was Tony. And he was arrested for attempted murder.
And that was her son.
That's her son. Yeah. But that's not the first time that he even tried to like hurt her.
Wow.
So he ended up being admitted to a private psych. He ended up being admitted to a private psychiatric hospital called the Priory, but he didn't spend a long time there at all because Barbara just wouldn't listen to the psychiatrist's warnings, and she also didn't have the money anymore to keep him like getting the treatment that he needed because Brooks cut her allowance.
Oh boy.
Which I'm like, a grown woman getting an allowance. It's just like the craziest thing.
That's crazy. But it seems like almost like an alimony kind of thing.
Yeah, probably. Yeah. But the psychiatrist literally told her that he believed it was Tony's full intention to kill her. Full intention to kill her, and she answered him by saying, quote, "He's been murdering me since the day he was born. Whether for him or his father, I don't know. I'm used to murder." And the psychiatrist was like...
This is so sad.
It's so sad. The whole entire thing is so sad.
Like from every angle, this is really sad.
It is. And the psychiatrist was like, I'm not talking like metaphorically. Like I know like that. I know you've been going through a lot. I know what you mean, but I'm not being like hyperbolic here. He's going to try to kill you, and he's going to kill you if he doesn't get the help he needs.
Oh my goodness.
And he said to her, "I think you're at great risk." And she said back to him, "I don't."
What?
Because she just didn't believe in her heart that her son could do something to her.
I mean, who does?
Of course not.
You know?
Now, a few months later, Tony was out of the hospital and again living with his mother. And again, Barbara couldn't pay to keep up with his visits, so he's only getting worse and worse. And Brooks refused to help at all. He said that his son was just inherently evil.
Oh.
So on the night of November 17th, 1972, according to Tony, he took a phone call from a friend. Now, this is where it gets like even weirder. So in the past couple weeks leading up to that night, Tony's behavior had become more and more erratic. He was doing strange paintings of people with blood pouring out of their sides. He was doing paintings of his mom with snakes wrapped around her neck.
Oof.
Just like clearly in a very disturbed state.
Lots of like symbolic images here.
Yes, definitely. And just like it tells you everything you need to know. Like clearly something was going on.
Yeah.
You know? He had also attacked her again and left her unconscious on the floor. He'd been throwing things around the house. And then finally, he seemed to have been entering a calmer state. Because I think it seems like this is how it went. Like it would blow up and then there would be like cool down periods.
Yeah.
Now, so he takes this phone call on November 17th. And he said the phone call was his friend who told him that he'd fallen down an elevator shaft and that it had taken a, quote, profound effect on him. So this is the friend telling Tony that Tony was the one who fell down the elevator shaft.
So his friend calls and says, hello, Tony. You fell down an elevator shaft.
Apparently.
It had a big effect on you.
So I don't know, because it got like super confusing. I don't know if it was the friend who was trying to use a metaphor to tell Tony, like, you've
fallen down an elevator shaft.
Like, you know what I mean?
Yeah, like metaphorically.
Exactly. And he's like, you need more help. Like, let's figure this out. Like, I'm here to help you.
That makes more sense.
That's how I took it. But I don't know if he meant it that way, if Tony actually had fallen down an elevator shaft, or if this conversation even happened at all. Yeah. Because it might not have even happened.
That's true.
Right. So either way, Tony said that he invited that friend over for a drink, and then his mom came home. Now, Barbara had been at her friend's house earlier that day, Missy Handlin. Missy's son, Mishka, had cooked dinner for them and said the entire time Barbara was just talking about Tony and how much better he was doing and just like all of the things that he was up to. And she said, actually, he's going to cook me dinner tonight. And I think it was one of those things because Missy's son was cooking lunch for them. And she was like, Tony's going to cook dinner for me. Like, yeah, like everything's A-okay.
See, my son's just like yours.
Me too. Like, he's so amazing. Mm-hmm. Unfortunately, that is not what happened. When Barbara got home, Tony told her that he was going to be having a friend over. And Barbara was annoyed, allegedly, about the time that Tony said the friend was coming because it was earlier than she wanted him to come. So they started fighting.
Okay.
Now, the fight made its way around the entire apartment. It was getting more and more heated until it just became explosive. Tony later said that at one point, Barbara sat down in the middle of the fight and wrote something down on a piece of paper. And her doing that made him so mad that he just struck her and ripped up the piece of paper. And while he was doing that, she ran into the kitchen.
Oof.
Lots going on here.
Not awesome.
Now, eventually things would end in the kitchen. So Tony chased her into the kitchen and then grabbed a knife, which he then stabbed into Barbara's heart, severing a major artery along the way, killing her.
Wow.
He killed Barbara.
Which is exactly what the doctor said would happen.
Exactly what the doctor had said would happen. She was 50 years old, and earlier that day, she had written a letter to one of her friends saying, Fridays are always suspect, don't you think?
Oof.
Like, what?
Oof.
Also, Brooks later pointed out that the next day, when he found out what happened, would have been their 30th wedding anniversary.
Holy shit.
So later that night, Missy Handlin got a call saying, like, hey, like, we heard you were with Barbara today. Like, when did she leave your house? Like, when did this happen? And they're asking her all these questions. Like, and she's like, this time, like, why? And they go, how well did you know the deceased? And that's how she found out that her friend had died.
Oh my God, that just gave me chills.
Like,
can you imagine that's how you find out? You just spent the day with her?
She just left your house probably a couple hours ago.
How well did you know the deceased? Oof.
Is that not crazy?
Woof.
So it's unclear who contacted the police. There was a housekeeper that like ran out of the house screaming. So it could have been her, could have been somebody who saw her screaming. But when they got there, you know, and I saw this in every single source that I looked up, Tony was sitting in the bedroom ordering Chinese food.
Wow.
Just had like
total just snap from reality.
Total snap. Exactly.
Wow.
He had the wherewithal to confess to the murder, and he said to the police, quote, my mind was slightly wacky, and I was very much under my mother's influence. I felt she was controlling my mind.
Whew, this is all just such a poisonous family. It's like, it's just poison everywhere.
So toxic.
Oof.
Now, it was clear to authorities and doctors that even though Tony knew what had happened right then and there, he wasn't doing well mentally. No. And over the following days, he didn't seem to realize that, like, what he had done.
That
he didn't know that she was gone because people would come and visit and he would say, how's my mom doing? Like, I don't know if he realized that he actually killed her.
Yeah.
No,
it seems like it was a total break from reality.
Absolute total break. He also told them that everything started when he was little and fell off a pogo stick, but just left it at that and wouldn't say anything more.
That's strange.
He was just like speaking like nonsense, basically, just saying like little things like that and then going off into something else.
Oof.
And then there were also times where he said that it was his grandmother's fault and she was the one who stabbed Barbara. But that couldn't be true because this happened in London and his grandmother was in New York.
Yeah, that would be hard.
It would be very difficult.
Yeah.
So while waiting for his trial and sentencing, Tony was held at Brixton Prison in the UK. It's like a very like high security prison. Like a lot of like gnarly murderers go there. Now, when the case went to trial, John Mortimer, what did I say earlier?
It took place.
John Mortimer took place.
Yeah, he took place here.
He was the one to represent Tony in court. His goal was to have Tony sent back to America to undergo treatment. But in the end, Tony was found guilty of manslaughter and he was sentenced to Broadmoor Hospital in the UK instead of jail time.
I had a feeling that was coming.
Yeah, and he ended up being diagnosed with schizophrenia.
Okay.
Which is just
that makes a lot of sense.
So heartbreaking and so sad.
Oh, this whole thing is like,
it really, it's just
from
tragic.
Start to finish.
It's tragic.
There's just no way to look at this other than tragic.
Well, and there was no way out of this either.
No,
it's like, how was this gonna, how is this gonna end any other way?
Yeah, people needed help from the jump.
Yeah, I mean, Barbara needed help.
Starting with Barbara.
Starting with Nene, Barbara's mother, you know?
Yeah, it's like there was a long line of not being, like, mental illness not being taken care of.
Absolutely.
And it explodes.
It literally exploded.
Yeah.
But during this time where he was in Broadmoor Hospital, he had tons of visitors. He would write letters back and forth with like the elite family friends and his grandmother Nene, who he said had done this. Oh my God. Which obviously he didn't. I don't even think he knew what he was saying.
Yeah.
In one of his letters to Nene, he wrote, quote, "Nevertheless, I feel better now, and I even feel a great weight has been removed from my shoulders. An odd thing is, she told me that I would kill her this summer several times. I thought this the most unlikely thing in the world."
That the poetic nature with which he describes this.
So remember, he's a writer.
Truly unsettling.
He wanted to be a poet. He wanted to be a writer.
That is some beautiful prose that he just spun about murdering his mother.
Beautiful, terrifying prose.
Wow.
And then, so it's like she said, like, Fridays are suspect. And then an odd thing is she told me that I would kill her this summer several times. And then even the thing that she said to the psychiatrist, like, they've been murdering me since, like, he's been murdering me since he was born.
Because you wonder if she was just like during some of their spats and stuff, she would be like, oh, you're going to kill me. You're going to be the death of me.
Oh,
like,
yeah.
You know what I mean? Like,
but I don't think she meant it literally.
No.
But
maybe she did.
She might have, because he attempted to kill her one really big time, and then there were other times he knocked her unconscious. So
yeah, I mean, that's the thing. This case, every time I'm like, well, maybe they meant this. I'm like, but honestly,
maybe they
nothing
actually
is
meant
off the table here,
right?
Like, literally nothing.
No. So like I mentioned in the beginning, Barbara's mother, Nene, had also been through her own struggles with mental health and the loss of her daughter now. But just like any grandmother, just like any grandmother in the world, she had a soft spot when it came to her grandson. She thought he could do no wrong.
Ooh, and that's a tough one.
She thought that he would do much better in the U.S. under her care. So she wanted to turn his life around. So she reached out to all of their like big money friends, the social elite. There was this man named Hugo Money Coutts. He and his family controlled a really exclusive bank, so they had power in the area.
That name.
Yeah. So she was talking to like big money dudes here, people with money that could probably bribe like the hospital to get Tony out.
Do anything.
It was a huge campaign just to get Tony out and brought back to the U.S.
Ooh.
But Brooks, insert Brooks back into the picture is what I'm trying to say. He totally disagreed with Nene. He thought that Tony was exactly where he needed to be. Again, he said Tony was evil and should have been convicted of first-degree murder.
Wow.
And because he like felt so strongly about this, and like it seemed like he had like a hatred for Tony.
Yeah.
I wonder if some part of him still loved Barbara. Somehow.
Yeah. I think all of the emotions in this whole case are all completely like obscured and just like we can't none of them are pure.
No.
You know what I mean? Like you can't just be like, oh, well, he loved her. It's just like, you're like, I think part of him, there was like a weird love.
An iota.
Like you just have to like weed through the nonsense to find it.
Right.
But yeah, I think there was like, and honestly, he wasn't around.
Right.
So it's not like he really knew this kid as a man.
No, not at all.
So it's like he only knows him as a kid. And it's weird that he surmised that from his childhood when he really wasn't taking care of him as a child either.
Right.
So It's strange.
It is really strange.
I just wonder where that came from.
But it's weird that he's like, Tony's so evil, and like, you know, and then even just to say the thing, like, I found out on what would have been our 30th anniversary.
Yeah.
When he was remarried and actually had a child.
Yeah, so it's like, it wouldn't have been your anniversary.
Because you're divorced.
Your anniversaries
left
stop when you stop being together.
Exactly.
Like, I don't count my anniversaries with my ex-boyfriends.
Nope, can't say I do that either.
Like, you don't just keep going and be like, wow, it's been 20 years not together.
Would have been our
That's
20th today
Like,
if we hadn't broken up. Or
if we hadn't broken up 18 years ago. Wow.
Would have been our 30th if I hadn't abandoned you and my sick child.
Exactly.
Like,
so,
okay.
But then you have to look at it the other way and you're like,
what was he supposed to do?
Something in him as a child that was scary.
Yeah.
Did he look at him as a child and be like, this kid is scary?
Maybe.
Because, I mean, it is his.
Yeah, you know, or and also he looked at Barbara and was like, maybe he loved her, but he just couldn't handle the volatileness of it all.
He wouldn't be able to take care of her or get through it with her.
Mm-hmm, exactly.
Like he should have.
But so while everybody was campaigning to get Tony out, Brooks was basically campaigning to keep him in. He was like, no. And he also said that, so at this point, Brooks had another child, a son. And he said that Tony had made and sent his son like weird macabre gifts.
Oh.
And I couldn't find anything to say like what these gifts were, but Tony like really enjoyed like making things like crafts and stuff like that while he was at Broadmoor.
Yeah.
And Brooks said that they were so creepy and weird that he threw them out immediately.
Because he was scared they were like messages or something.
Yeah, he was just like freaked out by them.
All right, I don't blame him.
But at the end of the day, it was not Brooks' decision. And all these big money people are rallying against him. So obviously, I have to imagine there was some kind of bribe involved.
Oh, I'm sure.
He's in there for like murder.
Oh, yeah. Somebody lined somebody's pockets.
Absolutely. I mean, we're talking about Hugo here.
Hugo's involved.
Hugo was involved.
Come on.
So Tony was released from Broadmoor in 1980, and his release was contingent on him being put directly under the care of his grandmother, 87-year-old Nini in New York City.
Who thought this was a good idea?
This woman is 87 years old, by herself. Her health is ailing. She's also in a wheelchair.
Yeah.
It's like, how is she gonna look after him, you know? And immediately she showed that she really couldn't look after him because again, he's in London. He has to fly back to New York. He has to be with someone because it's contingent. His release was contingent upon him being with her.
Yeah.
But she can't like fly back and forth at this point because her health is ailing. So she enlisted one of her friend's daughters who Tony had never even met.
So just this random girl.
Basically, it was her Nini's friend's daughter. And apparently they just lived close to Broadmoor. And the daughter was like, yeah, sure. Like,
sure, I'll bring him.
Sounds convenient, I
Why
guess.
not?
So it was more a plan of convenience than actual safety.
Wow.
It's like, what is this girl going to do if something happens?
Like, what if he like loses it?
Exactly. So Brooks was pissed, and in his opinion, this was absolute a sign that Tony was not going to be in good hands. And he kept saying he was really worried that Tony was going to kill someone else. So he even tried to have his release reversed, but it didn't work.
Oh, man.
His attempts were futile. So Brooks,
I feel like this isn't going to be like, and then everything worked out. The end.
No, this
gonna
whole
be
entire
that.
thing is a dumpster fire.
Awesome.
Brooks seemed to be the only one who realized how sick Tony actually was, and in a weird way, like even though he was so mad at him, he was like, he's evil. I think he cared. Like,
well, I think he was like, he needs to stay in the hospital. Like
Yeah.
he needs to be constantly monitored. That's just like, he's sick.
He's sick,
When
and
you're
he's
sick,
concerned.
you need help.
He's concerned about like public safety.
Yeah. I mean,
know?
I get that.
So everyone else at this time was like, no, like he's fine. He was happy at the Broadmoor. He changed after a year there. And, you know, I think it was just like, everyone was like, it was Barbara. Like, unfortunately, it was Barbara. And it's
Yeah,
like, as
totally.
fucked up as she was, nobody deserves to get murdered by their kid.
Yeah. And it's like, dude, like you don't, after a year of being in a hospital, after you murdered your own mother.
Right.
That's not enough time, I feel.
It's definitely
I feel
not
like you
enough
need more
time.
time.
And it's like, okay, so what happens to the next person that pisses him off?
Yeah.
Because he was literally just pissed that his friend couldn't come over on time.
Exactly.
And like, obviously, I don't think that was just it.
I was
There
going to
a lot
say,
of
obviously,
history there.
there's a lot bubbling under that surface.
But then we'll see, was it because of the history? I mean, yes, it was because of the history, but in that moment, I think it was just that he was pissed and couldn't get what he wanted.
And I think he just needs help.
He does
was
need
diagnosed
help.
as a schizophrenic,
Yeah.
and he's killed someone now. So I think he just needs help.
Correct.
So he's got to stay there.
He should have.
Oy.
So after a few days of living with Nini, Tony had built what some would call like a shrine to his mother. He built her a shrine, and he would whisper to himself while holding her ashes. Ooh. And I read in like some sources that he would whisper like satanic things, but I was like, I think you're just being like a little...
Yeah, that sounds
weird. It's like, don't be rude.
Yeah, he probably is just whispering.
He's probably
nonsense.
Yeah, exactly, unfortunately.
Or things that make sense to him.
Right. So Nini was like, well, but I have to try this because I got him out. So
I'm sorry, I just picture this like 87-year-old being like,
well, no, I know it's true. I think she was just in way over her head, and I think seeing somebody in a state like that is a lot different than like visiting them when they're in a controlled environment where they're getting the help that they need.
Exactly. Right. A calm, controlled environment. And now you're bringing them out into the chaotic world.
And this family is just straight up chaotic.
Yeah.
Because remember, Nini has her struggles with mental health too.
Oh, yeah.
So it hadn't even been a week since his release when Tony and his grandmother got into a heated argument over a simple telephone call.
Oh, no.
He said that his grandma was a mysterious woman and like wouldn't let him call people. But I also was like, he wanted to call someone in England and she wouldn't let him. And also like that's expensive, especially back then.
I'm sorry, long distance calls are expensive.
I think that's really all it was.
When I was little, it was expensive.
When I was little, really, it was expensive
like, we
too.
got in trouble for you. Like you do like fake like prank calls, and you'd accidentally call someone in like another country,
and you'd be like, "Well,"
and it showed up on the phone bill, and they were like, "What the hell is this?"
Grounded for a week.
Yeah.
But Tony was absolutely enraged when she told him that he couldn't use the phone, so he threw it at her, and he ended up hitting her in the head, and she fell over. And then Tony repeated what everybody thought he had been cured of. He immediately grabbed a knife from the kitchen and started stabbing his own grandmother over and over and over again.
Oh my God.
She was still screaming when the police arrived. And Tony calmly looked at them and said, like, she just won't die. She's just not dying.
Oh.
By that point, he had stabbed her 8 times and broken multiple bones. And when he was asked what happened, Tony said he threw the phone at her. And then when she fell over, he decided it would have been kinder to kill her than to just leave her hurt on the floor or leave her to go to the hospital and suffer all these broken bones. It'd be better just to kill her, in his rationale.
No, that doesn't make sense.
Nini survived the attack, my dudes.
What? She was 87?
She was 87 years old. And later on, she just said, like, she was like, I thought that I could help him, but I couldn't, unfortunately. Like,
that's really sad.
The same thing almost happened to me that happened to my daughter, and I didn't realize it.
That's really sad.
And this is, again, like a trigger warning because this is just a lot. Tony later admitted to his psychiatrist that he had been hearing voices leading up to this night, and that he had also thought about sleeping with his grandmother.
Oh, yeah, there's a lot of happening here.
A lot of
so much.
Yes.
Oh, this is just like really
the whole entire thing is so dark.
Yeah, it's like you don't even know how to describe it. It's just like it's just dark.
It's just all dark around. And it's bleak.
Wow.
So Tony was obviously again arrested and charged with attempted murder. Now he's in New York at this point, so he ends up getting a life sentence at Rikers Island.
Yeah.
Which I don't even think I need to explain to you, but if you're not from here, Rikers Island is literally like the most intense jail prison in New York.
Yeah.
Like the worst of the worst go there, and it's probably the scariest place in this area.
Yeah.
Now, just 8 months into his sentence, he requested bail, and his request was put on hold while Rikers waited for his records from Broadmoor. So he probably wasn't going to get released on bail, obviously.
Probably not.
But on March 20th, 1981, the day that he found out he would have to wait for those records, he walked back to his cell and was later found that very day with a plastic bag wrapped around his head, and he was dead.
Oh,
now,
wow.
People still question whether or not he killed himself or if he was killed.
Oh, yeah.
Nobody knows, because the thing that people were pointing out was like he was attached to all this big money. So he was able to do whatever he really wanted in prison because you know how that goes. Like, again, bribes and stuff like that. So he made a lot of enemies along the way. So it's like he could have been killed, or he could have just killed himself because he didn't want to be in that environment anymore.
And it's like he killed his own mother and his grandmother. I don't know if that throws him lower on the hierarchy in prison.
Yeah, probably.
To be a target, you know, like along with like kids, I think women tend to be, especially like your mother and grandmother.
Yeah, it's especially
I feel like that would put you lower on there.
Yeah,
but you could see either way.
Yeah. Or honestly, who knows? Like he was really suffering with like mental illness and schizophrenia. Maybe he didn't mean to do that.
Yeah.
Maybe he just,
Yeah.
I don't know.
Nobody knows.
So still nobody knows. And I read a book about this. It's called Savage Grace by Natalie Robbins and Stephen M.L. Aronson, who was connected to Barbara at the time, like ran in the same circle as her. So there's the way the book is written is really cool. It's all these interviews with people who were involved in the circle, and like Sylvie's in there. There's statements from Brooks in there. There's statements from Nene in there.
Oh, wow.
There's transcripts of psychiatrist notes. Like of interviews with Tony.
Oh, that's interesting.
It's a really good read. It's a really highly criticized book, I think, because it's just it's intense, you know?
Yeah.
And some people debate that the incest thing didn't happen. So
it's
I think it's just a hot topic.
Yeah.
And then they eventually made a movie, Savage Grace, which
I was just looking at that.
Again is very highly criticized. Julianne Moore stars in it.
Yeah, and what's his name? The other guy? Why can't I remember his name?
IMDb.
I love him as an actor, and I can't think of his name right now.
I'm gonna look it up
for some weird reason, so we're just gonna like vamp it up until we figure it out.
So Julianne Moore plays Barbara Baekeland,
and then the son is played by that actor that I like.
I'm looking for it.
He's got red hair. Popped in my head and then went away.
Eddie Redmayne.
Eddie Redmayne. Yep, there it is.
And then we have Stephen Dillane, Anne Reid. There's a lot of good people in here.
There you go.
But
Julianne Moore and Eddie Redmayne are like the main characters.
Yeah, the main characters. It's Barbara and Anthony. But it was like really highly criticized.
Really? It's so funny because I don't think I've ever heard of it.
I've actually never heard of it either.
And those are like two big stars.
I think it also was like not rated because it deals with a lot of stuff. I want to watch it, but I'm also like very scared to watch it.
Do you know when it came out?
2007.
2007. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, because he looked really young. So.
Yeah. It's just, I don't know if I want to watch it because, Flowers in the Attic was a lot to watch in and of itself. So, like, this might be even more to watch.
Yeah. I mean, I'm just, like, looking at the screenshots of it, and I'm like, I don't know.
I just watched, like, a little bit of the trailer while I was saying that, and I was like, I think I'm going to sit this one out. Especially after, like, pouring myself into this. I was like, I think I'm good.
Yeah, I don't really need to engross myself in that story anymore.
I think I'm going to move on to something haunted
And I love
week.
Julianne Moore.
I do, too. She's a great actress.
Yeah, she is great.
Yeah. So, guys, that is the story of Barbara Baekeland.
Wow.
And
didn't know that was the road we would be trekking down.
Yeah, I think we did take the road less traveled, to be honest with you.
The road you should never travel, I feel.
Don't travel that road.
Wow. So thank you for that.
Yeah, your face throughout this whole thing. So people are always like, I want that to be like a visual thing. Sometimes like you don't.
I feel like at that, this probably would have been a crazy
This would have been a funny one.
Because I think my face was just like...
You just kept being like...
Twisted in horror the entire time.
Your eyebrows were furrowed, your eyes were widened, and you like kept like crouching into yourself.
I kept just like curling into my own body. I'm like,
It's a lot, but highly requested. So
wow, thanks guys.
I did it for the weirdos.
I did it for the weirdos.
And with that being said, let's talk about some weirdos.
Let's do that.
Hey, Holly McNulty.
Holly McNulty, your last name is the last name of the detective in The Wire who I loved. McNulty, yeah.
Would you look at that? We then have Jessica Narell.
Jessica Narell, I think you are swell.
I think you're swell as well. Then we have Katie McClelland.
Katie McClelland. You have a great last name. I think it's cool. I don't have anything that rhymes with it, though, but I appreciate you.
Yeah, I like it a lot, though. Then we have Raymond Farmer.
Raymond Farmer. You are like a suit of armor. You make me feel protected, and I love you for it.
Wow, that was like really good. Then next up is Melissa Meany, who I bet is not a meanie.
No way. You're a nicey.
A nicey.
Thank you, Melissa.
Thank you. Then we have Audrey Purdell.
Audrey Purdell.
I feel like is like Purdell. It feels like a prominent last name.
It does. It feels like it would be like a Sephora. Like it feels like it would be Purdell. Like a really like nice makeup place.
Or just like maybe I think you're thinking of that because like the Prudential Center. Purdell, Prudential.
Yeah, maybe.
I don't know. Thank you either way. Then we have Samantha Flaglet.
Samantha Flaglet.
Or Flaget. Sorry, I'm the worst.
You did it, and I appreciate that about you. You probably bake really well, I feel. I don't know.
Sometimes you say that to like people, and I think it's funny.
And I think it's right.
I think it is. I like this last name. We have Susan Clevenshire.
Oh, Clevenshire.
It's probably Clevenshire, but I like Shire.
Know. Either way, that's an awesome last name. And you're awesome for donating. So thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Then we have Madison Dillinger.
Madison Dillinger. You know you have a good last name.
You know you do.
You know you belong here.
You know it.
And I appreciate it.
And then we do have 3. I'm going to name 3 Patreon Hall of Fame people.
Ooh, are you ready for the Hall of Fame?
Alyssa Vafiadis.
Alyssa Vafiadis. You are an MVP.
MVP.
Most valuable Patreon.
Oh, love it. One of the most. All of you are so valuable.
Of course.
Then we have Melissa Elio.
Melissa Elio, you are an MVP as well. Thank you so much.
And last but certainly never the least, we have Caitlin Danzinger.
Caitlin Danzinger, you are the 3rd VIP of the day, and I appreciate you guys. You belong in the Hall of Fame. We're going to scream your name.
Well, thank you guys so much for listening, and we hope you keep listening.
And we hope you
keep
it
weird. But not so whether you do any of the things involved in this episode, because just don't do that.
Literally don't do even one of these things.
None. Except maybe post for like Harper's Bazaar and Vogue. That'd be cool.
Just don't do any of it.
Oh yeah.
Just blanket statement. Nothing.
Not to do.
If you like Morbid, you can listen early and ad-free right now by joining Wondery Plus in the Wondery app or on Apple Podcasts. Prime members can listen ad-free on Amazon Music. Before you go, tell us about yourself by filling out a short survey at Wondery.com/survey.